I've been muted. So sorry about that, everyone. Thank you for the heads up. Welcome. If you haven't heard anything that I've said, I hope your week's going great, better than mine is right now. Welcome to the webinar, whether you're a brand new user or have been around for a while. Hopefully this will be helpful. I'm not going to waste any more time talking to myself, so let's dive right in. The planner view is the default view that you see when you log into Reclaim. Maybe this looks familiar. Maybe this is the first time you're seeing it. This is your overview of the week ahead, all of the events that you have going on. Please let me know if I end up being muted again. I don't think I did that on purpose. In the planner, you have your weeks. You can look at it by day, by week. Obviously, it's just your basic calendar view. And now Reclaim has its own UI, and you can use this to manage your schedule within Reclaim. Reclaim also works bidirectionally with Google Calendar. So the idea is that Reclaim isn't an app that comes in to replace all the other apps that you're using, but works seamlessly with the workflow that you already have going on to optimize your scheduling and your time management every single week. Obviously, you can use Reclaim in the Reclaim UI. We have our planner here, which works similar to the Google Calendar. If that's what you are used to, you have your collapsible sidebar here where you have your priorities that covers all of your smart Reclaim events that are currently scheduling, as well as your task list, which is all of your to-dos and projects that are coming up. In your left-hand sidebar, you have all of your smart event features, including the planner view here, all of your priorities, which are sort of seen in the right-hand sidebar in the planner as well, with a bigger view here, your stats, all of your smart events, as well as your settings and additional help options and resources down here as well, with your setup guide. If this is your first time seeing Reclaim, or maybe you are a user, we have a brand new setup guide that the team put a lot of work into that walks through everything that I'm going to talk through today and more, with detailed and in-depth feature walkthroughs for everything that you can do with Reclaim, which is a great place to get started if you are new to Reclaim or are just looking to explore some features that you might not have had the chance to so far. Today, we're going to be walking through a high-level overview of some of the features, how you can get started with smart scheduling. There is a Q&A section, which everyone has discovered. So feel free to leave questions there, and I will periodically check through those to get them answered. We're going to start with Habits, which is our most popular feature, and with good reason. And I think Habits is a great way to explain how Reclaim's smart scheduling works. Now, if you're someone who has a super busy calendar, if you've ever tried time blocking, which sounds great for that productivity benefit of knowing exactly where every single minute of the day is going to be dedicated to a priority, it's all great in concept, but then you sit down on Sunday, you plan out your entire week, everything's perfectly time blocked, and that's great. The problem is that it doesn't allow for much flexibility. In today's professional world, there's constantly new priorities shifting, new meetings come up, someone calls in sick, and you end up having to play calendar Tetris, dragging around events on your calendar, trying to find out a new way to make it all fit. Reclaim steps in as a virtual assistant of sorts to automate that entire process. So you tell Reclaim what's important to you, what you want to make time for across work events, personal commitments, your meeting schedule, and Reclaim does the heavy lifting of finding the best time for you to do it around all your preferences and keeps you flexible to those changes, keeps you open to collaborate with your team for new meetings, and time blocks your calendar so that you can be sure that your time is going towards your priorities without blocking you up for changes or opportunities to connect with your team or clients or whoever else that might be. Now, habits are a great way to make time for those recurring routines that you want to protect on your calendar. This can be for your work routines. We have templates across different departments with tons of options to get you started. These are fully customizable. Or you can create one from scratch. This can also be for personal routines like taking a walk or making sure that you have time to get exercise in or spend time with your family. Obviously, defending time on the calendar to get something done ensures that you actually have that time defended, as well as, creating that schedule for yourself and that accountability to make sure it gets done. Now, one thing that most professionals, most people try to make time for every day is a lunch break. And if you've ever tried scheduling lunch on your calendar at 12 o'clock every day, for example, as a recurring routine in Google Calendar, it doesn't, again, allow for that flexibility. You might be happy to shift your lunch block 30 minutes to accommodate for a really important client meeting, but your calendar doesn't know that. And so before you send your booking link, you have to move your lunch or delete that lunch to get that meeting scheduled, to have that time block open. Next thing you know, you've missed your lunch, or you moved it to a different time where it's blocking over something else that's important. And Reclaim automates that whole process. So if we take a look at the lunch hub here, this one's already scheduled. We have our upcoming events that we can take a look at. If these times seem weird, it's because it's a time zone thing. This would just be your normal time zone for the times that you set. I'm going to click edit here, and this is going to open the habit template. And this is exactly what you see when you get started with one of the templates or create a habit from scratch, where you can customize the title for how it appears on the calendar, set the priority. And I've mentioned this a few times now, but this is a great opportunity to talk a little bit about priorities. Reclaim allows you to prioritize all of the events on your calendar from critical to low priority, meaning that you tell Reclaim how important this event is for you and how you want to defend it around other events on your calendar. So if I say that lunch is a critical priority event or high priority event, Reclaim will prioritize it over all other lower priority events on my calendar. So if I have a medium priority, other habit or task, for example, and I am running out of time to schedule my lunch or my preferences, my lunch habit being a higher priority can bump a medium or low priority event to make sure that I have that time defended on the calendar. Again, just a great way to automate that trade-offs that we have to make a lot in the busy week. Sometimes there's more to do than there's actually time for, and this allows you to optimize that scheduling to make sure that your time is dedicated to where it matters most. I'm going to stop, see if we have any questions here real quick. When you discuss habits, can you let me know if there's a way to schedule yearly habits? This is actually a very great question, and I have some exciting news for updates coming for habits. So I'll get to that in a second when we move down the template here. But if you need a habit to be more of a daily recurring task that has to happen at a set time, can you set it so it isn't as flexible? Okay. So we'll get to those both those questions in a second here. Now, for that second question, in terms of having it at a set time, Reclaim's habits, the whole premise and benefit of it is that it is flexible. Instead of scheduling at the same time every day, it can move around based on these scheduling rules that you give Reclaim to keep you flexible to those changes and accommodate other events. So instead of having a 1-hour lunch block at 12 o'clock every single day, you can say, I want at least 30 minutes. And at maximum, if it's available, I'd like that 1 hour. You can set for when you want it to schedule. Your default hours are your working, meeting, and personal hours for when Reclaim schedules certain events. You can also build out custom hours on our premium plans, and then you can also set one-off hours, which will just apply to this specific event. You set the time frame that you want to be available to do this habit. You can add multiple time ranges to a single day and customize this to meet whatever your preferences are. Now here we have this frequency setting where we currently have daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Now we had a question asking about yearly habits. There's going to be some amazing updates coming out in the coming weeks to habits where we have a lot more functionality around frequency, where you can set events to, for example, be at the first day of every month or the last day of every month. We have yearly settings as well, specific monthly settings, just giving a lot more control over how and when those events schedule. Now, when it comes to setting times with less flexibility, it kind of defeats the purpose of what the benefit of Reclaim habits are. If you want an event to schedule at the same time every single day, using a tool like Google Calendar's recurring tasks is a great way to do that, and Reclaim will accommodate around those events on your calendar, excuse me, to make sure that you have time for all of those events. With Reclaim's habits, limiting the flexibility can get a little bit problematic. You can obviously limit the time ranges that you want to be available for that habit, but then you reduce the flexibility that it offers, which can get in the way of scheduling other events. So I think best practice here is to reserve Reclaim habits for things that you do want to be flexible for. And if there are events that you want to make time for at the same time on a more rigid schedule, using something like Google Calendar's recurring tasks would be great for that. And Reclaim works with those to make sure both of them happen. Now you can give Reclaim an ideal time. So if it is available, 12 o'clock seems like a good time to have lunch. You can have a later start date for a habit that you want to have start in April or whenever that might be. You can add notes to your habit, which is great for work habits like updating reports or, I don't know, working on slides that you periodically have to update. You can add links in here, and that will be included in the actual calendar event so that you can quickly access it without going through your computer once that time block starts. And then we have these visibility settings, and Reclaim's benefit is, especially on a team where you have a lot of people working on a lot of different things and managing their availability, you can control how much context you offer other people around your availability and what you're busy with. Obviously, I'm happy for my team to see when I'm busy with lunch, to reduce interruptions, and to share what I'm busy with, as opposed to it just being, blocked out where my team might not know what I'm doing. Having that visibility can be a huge benefit to, especially a team setting. But you can also choose to have it just marked as busy without any additional context, which is great for, your personal habits that you might not want to offer too much information about. Now, around your priority settings, obviously Reclaim prioritizes your calendar and your calendar events around the priorities that you set for everything. With habits, you do have the additional time defense settings where you can choose between letting Reclaim handle it with its intelligent scheduling or to mark something as always free or always busy. Now, free busy controls is something that a lot of digital calendars use, including Google Calendar, which allows it to schedule events between free and busy, meaning that when an event is scheduled as free, it is open and available to others viewing your calendar if they wanted to book a meeting with you. But if it's marked as busy, it actually shows to other people viewing your calendar as an unavailable time block and shows that something is scheduled there. Now, if you look at our planner, you'll notice that Reclaim visually shows this by having a dashed outline on events that are currently marked as free, meaning that that time is reserved for that event, but there's a little bit of flexibility if something more important comes up here for Reclaim to reschedule it around the preferences that you gave Reclaim. And then you have your solid time blocks where Reclaim has already locked that time down and flipped the event to busy. Now, this is me viewing my calendars myself. If I view as someone else, you'll notice that those free scheduled events actually appear as available times to meet, which would be available for, say, my scheduling links if I shared that with someone, so they could book a meeting there. And if something did come and book over that time because no one else can see that it's currently reserved for something, Reclaim will automatically find the next best time for this event to make sure that I have time for that. Let's see if any other questions. Is there any talk about adding proactive push notifications when habits and tasks are not likely to be completed in time? So for habits, less so, but if we take a look at tasks, which we'll go into next, there are currently notifications for when tasks are overdue or at risk of being overdue. They are notified with this little, flag, if you will. This doesn't currently send you a notification. I can definitely make a note of that to pass along to the product team. I do think that would be helpful, especially if you're managing a lot of tasks, but we do have these flags that will identify when tasks are at risk, both in the tasks page as well as in the tasks tab from the planner. And then moving into tasks, when we have habits as sort of a recurring routine that you want to make time for, tasks, on the other hand, are those one-off, constantly changing to-dos and projects that you still want to defend on your calendar, but less so on a recurring basis. Your tasks, as you can see here, list in your tasks page where we have these two sections. We have our overall task list as well as this green up next section. Now, tasks, just like habits, have a very similar form where you can create new tasks by giving Reclaim all of the rules and settings that you want Reclaim to use to schedule that task. You can add a task name, an emoji for how it will display on the calendar. Again, set that priority for how it will be defended around other events on your calendar. Depending on how long your task is, you can choose to split it up or not. Obviously, 8 hours on your calendar might be hard to come by, so splitting it up in a smaller max and min duration helps Reclaim find time for it around all the other things that you have going on, so you can customize that. Again, set when you want Reclaim to schedule those events, your working personal hours or any custom hours that you set up for things like day theming, if you had a day for content work or deep focus busiest times during the day. You can set an event to schedule after a certain date. This is great for tasks that are or that have a due date that's further out, so you don't need it to be scheduling currently or right away. And then your deadline for when you want to have it completed by. Now, Reclaim will find time on your calendar and defend those time blocks around your preferences before the due date so that you have time to actually get it done. Now, Reclaim uses priorities, just like I mentioned with habits. Reclaim uses priorities to schedule your task events. You can also choose to leverage this up next functionality just by dragging and dropping your tasks into that space, which will prioritize up next tasks ahead of any priority settings. This is a great way to make sure that you are dedicating your time where you want it most. Obviously, priorities change. You might have a task that suddenly becomes more urgent. Dragging that into up next will prioritize it ahead of all your other tasks, regardless of whether it's a higher or lower priority. And then your tasks in the up next category will be prioritized in stack ranked order. So those will schedule in the way that you rank them here. All of your tasks can be filtered by open tasks, meaning tasks that have been not marked as done. You have your scheduled tasks, which are currently on your calendar, your tasks that are done scheduling, meaning that Reclaim has burnt through the time that you said that you needed and is waiting for you to sort of check whether it actually got done or not. And then all your tasks that are marked done, which you said are completed and off the calendar, no more time is needed. You can always add more time to your tasks that are completed or done scheduling or log work that you might have completed in time that wasn't on the calendar. Excuse me. Tasks also works with integrations with popular project management tools, which is a great way to bridge that gap again between all the things that you have to do and your availability. Reclaim currently has task integrations with Google Tasks, Todoist, Jira, Asana, ClickUp, and Linear, which you can set up from your settings and integrations page. All of them work a little bit differently, obviously, to accommodate the project management tools, but it essentially allows you to automatically sync tasks from those platforms into Reclaim and onto Google Calendar as smart events. So autofilling all of those details for how long you need, when things are due by, so that you can make sure that that you have the time to fit it on the calendar to actually get things done. We also just released some updated settings for integrations for Todoist, ClickUp, and Asana, where you can customize the title for how a task is synced over, as well as additional settings for how you want certain events to schedule from those platforms across projects or labels in Todoist, spaces in ClickUp, hours that you want them to schedule to specifically, so you can fully customize your calendar around those preferences. Other integrations that Reclaim has is a Raycast extension for Mac users, which makes it super easy to pull up shortcuts from your desktop and join meetings from your menu bar in Mac or on Mac devices. We have a Slack integration that's super powerful that updates your Slack status according to your calendar, so your team knows what you're busy with and when you're busy. Based on the actual calendar event. So again, not just showing that you're busy or away, but showing that you're taking lunch right now or in a meeting. Even when you join a Zoom meeting unexpectedly, it updates to show that you are in a meeting and that's what you're busy with. We do have someone asked about Outlook support. We have some exciting updates on the roadmap for Outlook support coming up. We have a beta list that is now active, which I will link in the chat as well. So you can sign up for the beta list for Outlook, which is a really exciting and highly requested update that our most requested update ever, probably since we started. So I'll have that in the chat as well. How does Reclaim handle subtasks, particularly from ClickUp? So Reclaim doesn't currently offer subtask functionality. This is also a highly requested update that is on the team's roadmap. We do have a launch notes with a ton of roadmap items that you can subscribe to specifically so that you can get updated for those. I don't have a concrete timeline for how those are going to, or when those are going to be available this year, but that's definitely something to subscribe to. As far as how Reclaim handles subtasks from ClickUp, I'm not entirely sure since I don't use the ClickUp integration. We do have our help center, which is linked in the chat with extensive documentation around all of our task integrations. where there might be more information there. You can also always reach out to our support team to get more information around the specific integration questions that you might have. All right. Now that is how we make time for, or your tasks and habits are a great way to make time for all of your personal priorities, your to-dos, all of those routines. But Reclaim also has collaborative features for meetings and how you make time for connecting with your team through both one-on-ones, intelligent one-on-one scheduling, as well as a new scheduling link feature, which is available for all users. Our Smart One-on-Ones feature allows you to make time for those recurring one-on-one meetings at the best time for everybody. So Reclaim's Smart One-on-Ones, again, set up with that similar form settings where you tell Reclaim your scheduling preferences and those scheduling rules. You send a one-time meeting invitation to your attendee, and Reclaim starts finding time on both people's calendar to connect on a recurring basis. So again, you could add links to the meeting event, set the priority for the one-on-one, how often you want to meet and for how long you want to meet, the hours that you want to be available for, add a video conferencing link to automatically update to the event or a meeting location as well, or a custom video conferencing link, and Reclaim automatically schedules time around those preferences on both people's calendars. Again, just opening up a lot of time with a very simple automation that just allows people to forget about the back and forth emailing, to schedule time to meet and reschedule if something comes up. The great thing with Smart One-on-Ones too is that it allows for very easy rescheduling or skipping of events without having to email someone to find another time that works. If I find a Smart One-on-One that's scheduled here, Smart One-on-One, here we go. Both as the attendee or the organizer, you can reschedule or skip a Smart One-on-One event in a single click just by right-clicking it on the planner. You can also do this from in Google Calendar. Hit reschedule, say I'm not going to be able to make it on Thursday, another day. Reclaim is going to find the next best time for both of us to connect so that you have that prioritized time and reserved on the calendar for both people to connect without that back and forth time sync of trying to find a time to meet and then having to reschedule it or cancel it with back and forth communications. This is great for especially busy managers who spend a lot of time managing or juggling one-on-one meetings. Some users have, 10 one-on-one meetings a week. It's just a great way to optimize that time so you have a little bit more time that you can dedicate towards other priorities. Now, your scheduling links are more of a classic booking link experience where you can share your availability to others, usually for external meetings, to make sure that people can find a time to meet with you around when you're available. Now, traditionally, when you share a meeting link, it will show only real or open availability on your calendar as available times, which is fine if that's, if you have a lot of availability on your calendar. If you're someone that's juggling, back-to-back events, a really packed calendar, sharing a scheduling link and saying, hey, find time to meet with me when the next time you have an open time block is 2 weeks away is not exactly saying, this is important to me. I want to make sure that we can connect. The alternative is having to go in and delete events on your calendar where you can fit it in, which again is not really a optimized experience. Reclaim scheduling links use that prioritization setting that we've been talking about throughout the webinar to make sure that you can offer up custom availability without the manual toil of going in and manually having to manage your calendar before sharing a scheduling link. So for example, my high priority meeting link here, which is a critical priority currently, excuse me. If I take a look at it, my high priority scheduling link will show any lower priority scheduled Reclaim event on my calendar as available times automatically. If someone books a time around that or that overbooks a lower priority event, Reclaim reschedules that automatically. And that is all done without me having to go in and clear events from my calendar before sharing a scheduling link, which allows you to offer that customized availability for whatever kind of meeting it might be. You'd be happy to share a critical priority link for a super important meeting that you want to make sure it gets on the books as soon as possible, but you could also share a lower priority meeting link that will only show when you're actually available if you don't care too much about having it scheduled ASAP or having that availability open, just giving you a little bit more control around that etiquette and the experience, the booking experience for your attendees. Another unique customized feature for Reclaim scheduling links is multiple flexible duration options, where you can add multiple options to a single meeting link for the attendee to choose from. Again, 15 minutes might be easier to find on your calendar than 45 minutes, just giving that control back to the attendee to decide how long they need with you and how soon they can get in with you on your calendar, as well as adding video conferencing and locations. You're able to compare your availability if they are a Reclaim user. Another exciting update that came out recently was a troubleshoot availability. If you're looking at your own scheduling link meetings, you can identify why a meeting time might not be available so that you can adjust those. In this case, you have a higher priority event that might be on the calendar, or your hours might be outside of the limitations that you have set for those preferences. You can build out different links, different link groups for different side gigs or opportunities, whatever that might be, and customize scheduling links that you can share your custom availability with. Let's see if we have any other questions. Trouble with renaming tasks or moving things around in the moment. If a time set for one thing gets redirected, I'm spending my time differently. How do you make changes? Okay. So I don't know if you're describing a bug or functionality for rescheduling. Rescheduling your events from the planner is super easy. You can, or Google Calendar for that matter, you can always reschedule a Reclaim event by right-clicking it, and Reclaim will find a different time for you to work on it. You can also drag and drop events to different times, which Reclaim will accommodate as your preference. And, excuse me. I've been showing all of this in the Reclaim UI. A lot of the functionality that I'm showing you here, you can also do from in Google Calendar. Reclaim has a free Google Calendar add-on that's available in the Google Workspace Marketplace, which I have shared in the chat as well, which you can install for Google Calendar. It's free, and it will add Reclaim to this sidebar here, where you can have the same functionality as you do in the Reclaim app, with all of your priorities, your tasks, your habits, your scheduling links. So it's really easy to copy and share those. You can drag and drop Reclaim events to different times in Google Calendar, or extend the time, which Reclaim will automatically update in Reclaim as well. If you, for example, didn't get to something that passed the day before, this will be checked off, say I didn't actually get to creating the strategy document yesterday, I can drag and drop that to a different time, and Reclaim will add that time back on the calendar to make sure that it gets done, and log that work accordingly. I know we're almost at time here. I'm going to go a little bit over just to go over a couple other things. In our settings here, we also have our hours, which I talked about throughout the forums, talking about our default working, meeting, and personal hours for how Reclaim schedules events by default, and being able to, again, customize that availability, what you want to be available for when. We have custom hours that's available on all our paid plans, where you can build out additional day themes or just any kind of other availability that you want to have options for your smart events. You have color settings where you can customize how your calendar appears visually, so that you can see at a glance where your time is going every week. These are all limited to the available Google Calendar colors, but allows you a little bit of flexibility around the visual look and aesthetic of your calendar. We already went over integrations. You have your general settings as well, which covers a lot of default settings, especially for tasks. So you don't have to fill out all of the preferences for every task that you create. You can set default settings for things like duration, how you want your tasks to be split up, the event duration, the hours, priority, and whether you want it to go to up next, as well as a few other things. And Reclaim will autofill those fields if you don't have time or don't really need to customize all of them. You can always edit those later. So as soon as I open a draft, Reclaim will auto-populate those fields for you so that you can quickly make sure that a task gets on the calendar and then worry about updating or editing anything later. You also have auto lock. Reclaim, like I said, flips intelligently between free and busy to make sure that you stay flexible during the week around all of your events. You can auto lock smart one-on-ones as well as tasks and habits, either at the start of the day or the start of the week, to reduce any rescheduling. So you can set those up in your general settings as well. And we also have our buffer time and break settings in the general settings, where you can make sure that you have time for decompression or travel, or just taking a minute between events and having that buffer space between task and habit events if you wanted to add breaks after those. travel time before and after events with a detected location, which allows you to, again, just have a little bit of time to get to where you're going and back intelligently. Reclaim will also book more time if it detects a flight. It doesn't actually track your location for privacy purposes, so this is more of a general default buffer time around events, which again, you can customize once it's actually scheduled if you do need more time to get somewhere. And then we have decompression time, which schedules after meetings, either video conferencing meetings or all meetings detect on your calendar, where you have time to decompress after a heavy meeting day, for example, so that you're not getting Zoom fatigue and are just in back-to-back meetings. You have time to decompress, take notes, prepare for the next thing, whatever that might be, as well as communicate it to your team. If you do, for example, have the Slack integration set up, it will actually show, hey, I'm in decompression time, I'm taking a breather after a meeting to reduce those interruptions. A couple other features that we didn't really get to is calendar sync. This is another really popular feature that people use Reclaim for, which allows you to sync and copy events from different calendars if one-way syncs to a primary calendar so that you can manage your availability in a more realistic way. Obviously, you might be juggling 4 different calendars across, a couple work calendars, a side gig, and a family calendar. It still only means that you have 24 hours in a day, and it's really easy to get double booked or just very difficult to manage your time across different schedules. And calendar sync makes it really easy to set up syncs that actually copy those events from different calendars to your primary calendar. One, so that others can see that time is unavailable with your visibility settings, whether you wanted to communicate context or not, but also for yourself so that you can manage your time in a more realistic way and see where that time is going. Without having to check multiple sources across different calendars. As I mentioned, the setup guide is a wealth of resources across all of the features I talked about, settings, core concepts, as well as additional resources that you might need to get started. If you run into any bugs or issues, you can always contact support from in the app as well. Additional resources, I have the Google Workspace Marketplace add-on linked in the chat. We have all of our help docs, which are a great place to start if you do have any questions specifically. As I mentioned, we have the launch notes where you can subscribe to different roadmap items to make sure that you're the first to hear about updates. We have our YouTube channel where we have a ton of documentation and interviews with users and the founders, as well as just product updates there, as well as our live streamed webinars. If you wanted to rewatch anything. But I know I went a little bit over. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to stick around for another couple minutes to see if there's any other questions that anyone has. Hopefully this was helpful in getting started. Again, check out the setup guide. It covers everything I talked about and more. It's a great starting point to walk through and learn about the app and learn best practices there. So thank you so much for joining. I will stick around for another couple minutes if anyone else has any other questions. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and hopefully this was helpful in getting started with a high-level overview of Reclaim. The launch notes updates is also linked in the chat under product updates. So it'll be updates.reclaim.ai, and that's where you'll find all of our updates where we share product updates, new launches, things that are coming out, as well as our roadmap in the second tab here where you can subscribe to different issues or submit new ones. All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions. I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Thanks so much for being here today. And I will see you on YouTube or social or in another webinar if you choose to join us again.